So Reggie, we're here at E3 2015. Nintendo once again put together a fun, imaginative Nintendo Direct presentation. How do you feel that it went? I know that you don't have that same feedback from the crowd that the other guys get because they're in a big stage. So how do you gauge how well it went? Is it social media or?
It really is. It's real-time social media. It's seeing what people comment on, what they like, what they don't like. Obviously, Mr. Iwata, Mr. Miyamoto, myself in puppet form was very exciting for folks, and it was a wonderful concept. It was a great concept, and it actually ties back to some of the things that Mr. Miyamoto has said historically. That growing up, he played with puppets, made puppets, and that led to a lot of the imaginatory things that he's gone on and done since. As I look at the digital event, certainly Star Fox has shown really well, and it continues to show well. When I did go out on the floor, there's a massive line of people wanting to play that. Super Mario Maker has been a highlight for us, and as soon as we saw the reaction in the Nintendo World Championships, we knew that game would show extremely well. Yoshi's Woolly World is another fan favorite. So when we put these together, we do have a strong sense for what are the games that are going to do exceptionally well. We also learn along the way, what things maybe aren't as clear as we want them to be, and that's where we put added focus during the show. And so, for example, Metroid Prime Federation Force. We knew it was a tough concept, right? It's a game taking place in the Metroid Prime environment, but there's no Samus. And the gameplay is different. So how do we communicate that? And we tried hard to do that in the digital event. We're hearing that maybe it wasn't as clearly communicated. And so we're spending time on it during Treehouse Live. And again, that's one of the benefits that we have in just the overall approach that we take for E3. It's just not a press conference and then come play our games. We look for a range of opportunities to help people understand what's magical about our content, because we know once we get a controller in your hands, you're going to have a wonderful experience. And so we're doing that now. And what's interesting is that I'm now hearing that the reaction to Blast Ball has been quite fabulous. So things are good.
Mm-hmm. And you guys, I think more than any of the other companies, have a direct line with your fans. I mean, who else could put together a world championship right before an event like E3? How did the Nintendo World Championships go? What was the sentiment after that?
The sentiment was fantastic. Whenever we do something that's brand new, we'll set up expectations and then we'll measure our performance against those expectations. So we had targets for simultaneous views. We had targets for the VOD views immediately after, and those targets were blown away with our actual performance. As of last night, we had about 2.5 million VOD views, and that's before we, my words, clean up the video, because right now there was a long lead on it. We're doing some things, and we did overnight to tighten that up. But based on what I've seen so far, that video is going to have, probably by the time we're done here at E3, 3.5 million views, so it's going to be pretty massive.
So it sounds like it was a huge success. Is that something you think you would revisit, or was it kind of a one-off special event for the 30th anniversary?
The wonderful thing about our approach is that for us, E3 is not cookie cutter, right? We don't say this is going to be the formula, let's lock it in, we're going to do that for the next 5 years. We really try and think through what's going to be best, what's going to be most effective in communicating the appeal of the games, and then we execute from there. This year, with the anniversary of Super Mario, with Mario Maker as a key game, plus the launch we just had of Splatoon, which we believe could be a great competitive game, it made sense for us to bring back the World Championships. Certainly the feedback by the fans has been phenomenal, so it's going to make us consider how we maybe do this on a much more frequent basis than every 25 years. But for us, it is about doing something that's fun for the fan.
And looking at the conference as a whole, I think there was a great focus with your presentation on what people can look forward to this year. But I think Mr. Miyamoto had said that you guys did actually have some footage of Zelda for Wii U that was really phenomenal, but you decided not to bring it to the show. How, for something that fans also really want to see, what drove that decision?
So again, our mentality is that we want to showcase at E3 games that are launching over the next 6-9 months, right? That's our mentality. Now, in fairness, we break our own rules all the time, but generally speaking, that's our mentality. We had just announced a delay of Zelda, right? That it would not launch in 2015. And so we were concerned that by showing wonderful footage of the game, it would lead to further disappointment on behalf of the fans. So that was the judgment call that we made. There'll be plenty of opportunities for us to showcase that game. And certainly for those of us like myself who've seen the game and see how it's progressing, no fears, it's going to be wonderful. But we believe that this year we had a tremendous lineup. We had more than enough content to showcase this year at E3. And so it was a decision to, let's not pour salt on the wound, so to speak, and focus our next showing of Zelda at a later date.
And the Wii U has just had, I think, probably one of its best years ever. It's
yes.
After kind of maybe a rocky start in some ways, it's rebounded and completely. I guess for you, what is the state of the Wii U now, especially going into the next part of the year where we see all of these great titles?
The state of the Wii U is quite strong, and you said it well. The Wii U has had a strong year, and if you look back to just about a year ago to where we are today, Mario Kart, Smash Brothers, Splatoon, what a great 1-2-3 punch. And so we know that in this business, software is what drives hardware. And as long as we focus to continually bring great new software on that regular basis, we're going to continue to drive the install base. The support we're getting from third party continues to be there. The announcement we made with Skylanders and Activision has been incredibly well received. And so for us, it is about making the great content, launching great innovations like Amiibo, and to continue driving that forward.
And Splatoon, it seems like every time that I play, I've never had to wait long for a match. It's easy to get into. The net code seems really strong. It's from my end as a player, it seems to be doing well. I guess from your end, from Nintendo's end, is it also doing really well as a strong performer?
It's performing exceptionally well. On a global basis, the sell-through has been quite strong.
Yeah.
As you highlight, and it tells you just how much people are playing. The fact that you get into matches very quickly, and our continuing announcement of new modes, new weapons, is going to continue to keep people engaged. So we're very pleased with the way Splatoon has taken off.
Going back to the Nintendo Direct a second, and to all the presentations you guys do, I think it's always impressive how imaginative they are, how fun they are to watch. Is that something that you ever have any input into, or Miyamoto, creatively, or is that something you have an outside team come and hey, we have a great idea, we're going to do Muppets this time?
No, so we do it all internally. And we have some external support, whether it's in the digital event or as we do various Nintendo Directs. But the core activity is done internally. An example. When we did the introduction for this year's E3, the announcement video of what was going to be new and different, we had a script, but we made some things up as we went along. And one of the things that we made up was the ending when I fire Bill. Right, that was totally unscripted. It just it was fun and it was a thing to do. So then, as we prepared for the mini direct, we thought it'd be fun to have Bill Small, right, working his way back up, and so it really was, that fluid, and the reaction was quite positive.
And it's been really exciting to see how Nintendo's transitioned into this figurine space that has been kind of dominated by Skylanders. Disney has stepped in very well, and Nintendo definitely has a very diverse mold. I was so surprised to see the Animal Crossing characters come up. Like as a huge hundreds of hours in an Animal Crossing fan, like it makes me really happy to see those. How are you guys feeling about how Amiibo are going?
We're extremely pleased with Amiibo, and the last numbers we announced were back at the end of March. At that point, on a global basis, we'd sold through about 10.5 million units. About 2/3 of that volume was coming out of the NOA territories. So we're extremely pleased with our performance to date. Now, having said that, we also know that there's some consumer frustration out there. And so we've made the commitment that we're going to improve the flow of product into the market. And we've delivered on that. In the 30-day time period for the most recent launch of new Amiibo, during that 30-day time period, we sold through about 1 million units. So, I mean, you can't do that without putting more product into the marketplace and driving real improvements in your supply chain. So the performance has been good, and now we're looking forward to different form factors, whether it's the Yarn Yoshi Amiibo, whether it's the cards for Animal Crossing, and we're going to continue to innovate in this space, because for us it's all about the magic that happens when you do something to either that GameCube. Wow, I think I still have the Nintendo World Championships on my mind. It's what happens when you put the Amiibo figure or the card for Animal Crossing against that our gamepad controller or against the face of the new Nintendo 3DS. That magic that happens for us is what Amiibo is all about. So we're going to continue to experiment with the form factor and go from there.
And I think bringing Amiibo over to Skylanders Superchargers is a really interesting. That's a fun move. But I bet a lot of fans also wish that they had a dedicated Nintendo experience for that. Is that something that's off the table because you're moving into Skylanders, or is that?
And when you say a dedicated Nintendo experience, what do you mean?
Well, so something that would be like Nintendo Universe or Nintendo Landers, if you would, like a toy box where you could play with your own Amiibo.
Right. So I've got nothing to announce today in that space, but I'll tell you, the Treehouse team, myself, we visit Japan very frequently, and all of us share our wishes with the development team of what we'd love to see, and it's not saying anything out of school to say that we've communicated that we think there's a strong opportunity for a dedicated Amiibo-centric game where it's all about the magic that happens with Amiibo. And so I'm certain that the developers are thinking about it and thinking about what's the unique Nintendo spin that would come in that type of gameplay.
And looking at the games that we are getting for the rest of this year, it feels like there is a strong focus on the core. You have that Mario Tennis,
sure.
Zelda, like these games that are catering to fans.
Xenoblade is going to
definitely
be key for the core.
And you mentioned next year is when maybe we'll be talking about mobile and where Nintendo will fit that into their plans more. Where do you see gamers going, like Nintendo gamers? How are they going to be evolving through this year and into next year?
For us, gamers who enjoy our IP are going to continue to experience them on Wii U. They're going to continue to experience them on the 3DS. They're going to experience them in the future on mobile devices and in the future on NX. The common thread in all of this is going to be that we will be delivering unique, compelling, differentiated experiences that only Nintendo can do, leveraging its IP and constantly pushing the envelope in terms of what's fun. If 3 years ago, I would have come to you and said, you know what would be fun? This game where your Mii character does really wacky things with other Mii characters, you'd look at me like I had 3 heads. And yet Tomodachi Life was one of the big surprises last year. And we're going to continue to find ways to innovate. That's what we do.
And one of the things that I thought was a really great way to service fans was the announcement for Earthbound at the
Yes.
Nintendo World Championships. Like for me personally, as a huge Earthbound fan, as a big eToy fan, like that felt giving us fans hope that the series is still something that's dear to Nintendo as well. So as I think leading from that, it was maybe a little bit of a surprise that we didn't hear more about it at the Nintendo Direct. Is there any hint that you guys are still thinking about Earthbound as a series?
Look, we know the love that our fans have for that franchise and that series. And we thought that making the announcement and making it immediately available through the eShop was a great way to service that fan love. In terms of where we go from here, again, I've got nothing to announce, but the little skit we did at last year's digital event, where I'm constantly being asked about Mother 3, it happens, right? It happens. So we know the love is there, and we'll see what happens.
So why did you guys choose to go with Mother 1 to the original Earthbound?
Really, from our standpoint, there are so many consumers who don't know the fundamental series, and we thought it would be best to kind of bring them back to the beginning to help them understand what it's all about and why it's captivated people in such a magnificent way.
Okay, so not as much related to Nintendo, but looking at the industry as a whole, I think we've seen a lot of companies going into virtual reality. Of course, Nintendo has had a large history with that. Microsoft with the HoloLens, Sony with Project Morpheus. For you personally, as an insider in the development agency, where do you see virtual reality? What is it that virtual reality needs to take off to be something?
Look, our industry loves to focus on the shiny new thing.
Yeah.
And right now, the shiny new thing is virtual reality. Last year at E3, I was fortunate enough to experience all of the various executions. I've continued to stay close. Nintendo as a company continues to stay close with how this technology is evolving. From a consumer standpoint, it needs to be fun. And the experience needs to be something that is a real wow experience. My own personal point of view is that I also believe that our content is inherently social. So I think in some way this has to be a social experience as well. When those interconnect, something that is inherently fun and something that is inherently sociable and shareable is, I think, when this technology will take off. And I haven't had a chance to see what's here, but when those concepts connect, it'll be a movement.
Well, thanks so much for taking time out and talk with me at the very busy E3.
Absolutely. Happy to do it.
Thanks, Reggie.